Welcome to the FSC podcast. Here's Avery, PJ, and Nick.
League office is now in session. Nick is shutting up. This is the Fantasy Sports Concierge podcast where we talk about sports, fantasy sports, league management, and whatever else we get distracted by. Check us out on fsconcierge.com where we manage your fantasy league so you can just have fun. Like and subscribe. Check us out on all the stuff. Hello, everyone. My name's Avery. Here with PJ and Nick, my fellow front office members. Today, we're mostly going to talk about tight ends, and then probably maybe a little bit just around league settings. People are starting to be draft season. Leagues are getting started up. I'm hyped for fantasy football. What are you guys hyped for? Are you getting in the mood?
Well, football in general, I'm just getting in the mood for, it's actually funny enough. My house is close enough to where like the high school band practices. So like they just like they must have had like their midsummer session, but hearing the band practicing is like, oh yeah, it's happening.
Are they good? Are they a good band?
Yeah. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I'm not
good enough.
Band, they're not like the Ohio State band team, but they're, they get the job done.
They play like the Star Wars theme or something.
I have no idea, to be honest with you, but I've never gone out to support them. I'm just happy I can hear them from my bedroom. Yeah.
This is the extent of your support. Giving them a quick shout out.
Yeah.
All right, we can get to tight ends because tight end as a position. So my first thing on tight ends is it shouldn't be its own position. Like having tight end by itself, like I just think because of how few tight ends are good or make a difference. I mean, in any given season, there's like 2 tight ends that really matter, and everybody else is between 6 and 9 points. Like they just really don't make a difference. So advice, league setting wise, shout out to Fantasy Sports Concierge where we manage leagues. Your league should have a tight end / wide receiver slot rather than just tight end slot, and that would give you three receivers if you have 2 dedicated receiver spots. We did that in our league, and everybody loves it. I've seen some leagues that have tight end premium, which why? Why would you make tight end free? Like, I don't get that. Have you guys seen that or heard anybody in leagues that are tight end premium? I've only read about it.
I've never heard of that.
Like if you have a 2 tight end, like tight end catches count as 1.5 or something like that.
Yeah, I've just never heard it done with the tight end position.
Or like a 2 tight end league, which would be so dumb.
Yeah.
I think
we're on with the sliders like that, I don't like.
I like messing around with stuff. Like I mean, I think kickers should be gone. I might have said that before. Like get kickers out of your league. They don't deserve to be in fantasy football. And then team defenses should be gone. Replace that with IDPs, individual defensive players, and just make your tight end slot a tight end / wide receiver slot. Because
that's not changing the point system. Like, that's what I'm saying. I don't like changing the sliders like the point systems. I wouldn't like the idea of tight ends because now I'd be all in my head about freaking Michael Mayer or something, thinking he's going to be something for my team.
That's what I'm against it. Like, I don't think you should have a tight end premium league where tight end catches are worth more than wide receiver catches to like try to juice their value somewhat. Like, I don't want to be scoping down the bottom of the barrel tight end list to look at like Charlie Kohler or something as my second starting tight end. But if you're going to, but you definitely should. I mean, I think adjusting points is fine. The reason to do it would be to make it line up more with how real football is, make it less a game of chance. Like for kickers, you never know. There's no rhyme or reason to if a kicker is going to do good in a season or in any given game. You can't be like, all right, you're going up against a defense that is bad, so I want to start this receiver who might not usually start. Like, that's the fun of fantasy football, I think, is the scheming part where you can kind of like be a coach and set your own lineup. You just throw a kicker in there. That's kind of not fun at all. I don't see the point of anybody liking kickers in the game.
I like changing the defensive things around. There's something you could play with there with like tackles for loss and how like interceptions. Remember the one year we had more focus on the
Pass
defensive backs.
breakups.
Yeah, and
Pass
things like
breakups,
that.
yeah. We mess
Because
around with pass breakups.
yeah, those you can play with. You know what I mean? I can get behind that. I think the offense PPR is figured out and going
Yeah,
in.
I think that's true. I think, yeah, like you definitely should do PPR for one thing, because like it catches like in fantasy sports, you should give a value to things that matter. And I think that's why, yeah, if you're doing a whole defense, it's like you can't really do pass deflections as points if it's for a full defense, because then again, it's just a guess. It's not like you have a skill. If you lose to somebody because their defense scored 3 touchdowns, like nobody's really happy about that. That's not something that's replicatable. You just pick a defense and you slot it in for the season. If you have a kicker who, usually hits 50-yard field goals, but just so happened to miss 1 or 2 because he's in the win, like that doesn't make anybody, either the winner or the loser of that matchup, feel good about the game.
I feel
Right.
like PPR became like the necessity when running backs became just more pass catchers and stuff like that. When you got away from the running backs that were just like bell cows, back in the day when they were just getting handed the ball. Once running backs started to become more in the pass game, I think you have to put PPR in it because it you have that running back in the league that is just a natural runner and he's getting 750 yards for you, but he doesn't get any pass catches. Well, that guy who's coming in on third down and getting the Rashad Whites of the world getting 40 catches, like you have to make sense to why that guy has just as much value as that running back who's just can pound the ball.
Yeah, I think it expands the amount of players who matter. So like it makes the rosters are balanced better because there's more guys that you can start that will actually get you points, rather than just like if you take PPR away from running backs, there's maybe like 6 that ever do anything, because most running backs, so much of their points are from their pass catching production. And on that note, also, people, please do auction. Like, auction is so much better than a snake draft. I'm going to die on this hill if I have to, that snake drafts suck and auction drafts are awesome, because in a snake draft, who you get is a function of a random where you're slotted. I mean, whether it's some competition that we see where people do like a race or something, there's a bunch of 40-year-old men tearing their hamstrings to get the first pick. Like, I just think that's kind of pointless. And your league can be a lot more balanced if you have an auction where everybody can get anyone. Like, it's just a function of how much you want to spend on a guy. Like, if you really want Jamar Chase, if you're gonna throw $70 on him, he's yours. And I also like messing with other people, making them pay more money for people that are on their team. And like it's definitely a lot more. If you're in like a office league or a league with your friends, you can mess with people a lot more in an auction league where you're like, all right, I know this guy wants Jaden Daniels, and the first person that comes to mind is Trey, because we know he's the biggest Washington fan. But also, whenever I had Hurts and when I had to lose Hurts, I know like I'm not getting him back because nobody's letting me have Jalen Hurts for cheap. They know I want him. They know I'm an Eagles fan. The biggest pushback I get about auction leagues is it's confusing. Where it's just, I mean, everybody's used eBay, right? That's the whole like fun of an auction. It's not that hard. Like, you nominate a player and everybody bids on them. If I nominate Saquon Barkley for $20, somebody presses.
It takes
Somebody
more
presses
time.
Yeah, it takes more time, but who cares? Just a whole season long.
Does it even take more time? I guess it takes more time just because.
Yeah.
But you're
each
getting the
player-
guys that you want. It's like, how bad do you want a player? It takes away that whole like you're up, you're coming up next, and you're like, my guy's off the board. In auction, it's like, hey, do you really want the guy? Pay for it.
Well, not only
Go get
that,
him.
a lot of people, there's a percentage of players that auto draft.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
I mean that's
just from timing purpose. Like I'm in a family one, and I coach soccer, and I'm always at soccer practice during the draft, so I auto draft it. You know.
Do you set your favorites first, or do you just
I do
let
a
it
watch list.
Okay.
I put like 50 guys in the watch list.
How many of those guys do you usually get? It's like 1 or 2 of them, or like is it actually a good amount?
Nah, I mean, I spread them out pretty good.
And that's
You
in a
know,
snake, right?
I'm not like, yeah, I'm not doing like the top 50 guys. I try to spread them out each round. So I do typically get the majority of usually my entire team is about 60-70% of the guys I had on a watch list.
That's good. That's impressive. But it's also
Yep.
like, I don't know, it's for auction league, I just don't like that if I'm in 10th, like I just can't get like 6 dudes who I was really excited about. That kind of ruins a lot of the fun for me. If it turns out, it's the other thing is like you'll surprise get people that you didn't even know you could have the chance to get. Like
Right.
there's like the one year I think I got Jamar Chase for like $50 his first like or second really crazy year. Because like, oh, nobody wants to spend $50 on Jamar Chase? Sure. Like I don't get why that intimidates people. Like you're just pressing a button. Like it's the same as selecting a player in a snake draft. You're just
Yeah.
clicking a button a few more times that says a dollar amount on it.
And
Like it's not that.
I feel like people think it's like frustrating as well because of, you know, there is like a cap to like what you can spend, but it's no more frustrating than having, you know, a person steal a guy that you were like looking at,
Oh my
you
God.
know,
That
right
is
before your pick. So
yeah. That to me is the most frustrating thing is when you're like, all right, there's like 3 more picks and there's two guys that I want and they both get
yeah,
taken, which can never happen because even if the guy comes up, if he's nominated by somebody else, I can outspend that person as much as I feel like.
as you
I,
can, yeah.
I'm going to die on this hill. I just can't. The amount of snake drafts I'm in has dropped off every year. I wish I could be in none and I could convince everyone to be an auction person. It's more fair. It's more fun messing with people in an auction. And your sleepers, like I think you'll get more of your sleepers in an auction draft than in a snake draft because at some point in every auction draft, there's only like 3 people who can spend money because everybody else spent theirs and you still have like $50 left. And then it's so much fun to just like run the draft at that point and get all of your sleepers. It's more
I
on
hate
you if they don't work out.
I hate that strategy though. Like you have to spend money, not just out the rip, but you have to go get a guy. You know what I mean? Like I've done that before where like probably my worst year was when I was like stingy with my money, expecting that like I was going to spend either a lot on someone later, but now I'm watching the Chase, the Jeffersons, all of them come off the board. And I'm kind of just like waiting around for like Bo Jackson to like appear on the board
Yeah.
somehow, you know. So it's last year, probably one of my most successful auction drafts. I flipped my entire script on that. You know, I went out and I got Jefferson, Jonathan Taylor, and then I was bringing James Cook over. So I had like my core. And then, yeah, like you're saying with your sleepers, like Drake May was a sleeper of mine, you know, so it's like you'll hit on one of those guys if you allocate enough to to those sleeper guys. But definitely go out and get your meat and potatoes first though.
No, I agree 100%. That is one of the things that you learn quickly. I think most people, when they do an auction the first time, that's what they do is they're like, well, I'm not going to spend $65 on one guy. Like I only have 200. Like, what am I going to do? When you really think about it, it's like, well, that's fine. Like you need to get at least 1 or 2 of those guys who it feels like you're spending too much on because they go quick and then you're left with nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a real, like, that's what you would consider. I think when you're getting prepared for an auction, you should really do the tier system where you put players in tiers and you make sure like I want to get 1 player from this tier. And then if 3 of those guys are gone, there's only 4 in that tier. You're just like, whatever, I'm spending 75 on him. And that's a smart
Yeah.
idea because you don't want to drop down a tier. Whereas like in Snake, you can't do that really because you don't get to judge, is this guy still available? Everybody's available to you in an auction draft. So you have a lot more leeway to be like, all right, I'm going to let this guy go for 80 because somebody spent $80 on Christian McCaffrey. Because there's Jonathan Taylor still there and Saquon's still there and like people that you care about are still in that tier, you can wait. But then when it does tell you when you need to go hard on somebody because there's only 2 wide receivers left in your tier 2 and like because of that,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how much money I have to spend on him. I just need one of these guys.
Well, that brings up like a good point in the snake draft as well, because there's always a guy who's like over projected in his ranking, and everyone skips on him. And so now they're starting to take people from, let's say, like your third tier now. And there's a guy up there who everyone's considering as like a tier 2 in the rankings, but everyone with common sense knows that he's not there. So it's like, you're kind of killing my, like, my whole like thought process on this, because I'm looking to do best available, and I'm kind of having my hands like, tied together with who's left on the board.
Yeah, and like the runs in when there's a run in a snake draft and it's like everybody's drafting running backs or everybody's drafting quarterbacks, you kind of have to participate because
Yeah.
otherwise, like, because you don't really get a choice of, all right, well, there's just so many quarterbacks left. Like, there's still people between you, so like you really can't decide. Whereas in an auction draft, if you see a bunch of like wide receivers going, you can start bidding them up and then making people go a different. Like, you have a lot more control over what way the draft is going, each person, because everybody has an effect on every selection if they feel like it.
No, that's a funny point that you're bringing up, because 99% of snake drafts have that one round that's all quarterbacks, that one round that's all tight ends, and the one round that's all kickers and defenses.
It's such a weird way to build your team. Like,
just one guy starts a run and then
Yeah.
like, oh, here we go.
Whereas
We gotta do quarterback.
in an auction, your strategy should always be, and like sometimes, I mean, it's not always this case. I think people in the League of Elegance are the best league ever that we run. Me and producer Reek run. People, when we first started doing an auction, put out people that they wanted, which is the exact opposite of what you want to do in an auction. So another thing, people who are going to do a first time auction, who we are convincing right now to make the leap of doing an auction, you want to put out players who you don't want. You want to take everybody else's roster money away. So like my first thing as an Eagles fan is I always put out Cowboys, Giants, and Commanders players first, because I don't want them anyway. I don't care how good they are. Like Dak Prescott's going out first, Javante's going out first, Pickens is going out first, CeeDee Lamb's is going out. And like, I'm not saying those aren't good players. I don't want to root for them. So like, I'm good if somebody spends $60 on CeeDee Lamb, because that's $60 they can't spend on somebody I want later on.
And
like,
psychologically, people spend early in the draft. They don't spend a lot late. It's just like human nature with it. So I do the same thing. Like CeeDee Lamb, I think, was the first guy I put out last year. I don't want him. Love to have him if it was affordable. But you're right. I'm not cheering for the guy.
I'm trying to think of we need one person. We need to get probably bring on a person who is really into snake drafts, so that we'll have something, because I want somebody to say like, no, I want this. Like, because I truly don't understand why anybody likes a snake draft better. Like, it's not necessarily easier. I guess if you just really don't feel like knowing any of the players.
Well, that's the thing. It's the people that don't follow football as much, but they enjoy the camaraderie of being in a fantasy football league. The snake style just appeases to that more than the auction.
I think even people who don't know as much, like, as long as you know it's the same pool of players. Like, if somebody comes up that you notice, then bid on them. If somebody comes up that you don't notice, who cares? Let it go. Like, you can just ignore that for that, 60 seconds or whatever.
Everybody goes on and looks up their rankings and stuff. As far as rankings goes for standard drafts, like what their players are that they're interested in and stuff like that. They have those types of things that do for auction drafts as well. Like they have,
I think people don't know that. You're right.
You'll have like your average, like 62 for Bijan
McCaffrey
and stuff like that. But you'll have those little baselines to go for it. I'm not saying they're spot on. Like, you'll always have those people that every year spend $70 on somebody, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, it's so much more fun.
It's so much more fun. The whole draft process is like, there's so much more entertainment. It's every single pick you have the opportunity to be involved in something. I mean, like, I personally like to just be involved in every pick almost. You know what I mean? Or
you should.
I mean,
and like,
well,
we get to a point.
Just bid, just bid.
That's when we do our drafts. Like, that's my thing. Is I want to, because another thing for people who are going to be first time auction drafters, like, you don't want to give away. It's kind of like poker, where like, if you have a good hand, you don't want to be like, ooh, I'm bidding I'm going all in for right off the rip. Because now everybody knows you have a good hand. But like in auction, you don't want to be like, all right, this is a player I like. You have to bid on everybody so people don't think, oh, that person's bidding. That's who they like. Like that psychology aspect of it is so much fun.
There will be situations where there's a lot of people that don't have a lot in the bank, and there's that one guy who's got a bunch in the bank, and he's about to get somebody for cheap, and you're the last one standing that has to make
Stop
this
him.
guy bid up.
Yeah.
He's got it.
That's
He
so
can't
fun.
get away with this shit. You know what I mean? Like all these other assholes got nothing in the bank to work with, and you're the guy
I
that's
love
like,
doing that.
I got to do something. You know what I mean?
I love looking around when somebody's has at like $1 and you're like, no, you can't get him for $1. And then somebody else jumps in at that moment and you're like, what the, you asshole, don't tell him that. Like those moments are so much fun. And all you snake drafters out there, you're missing out on that.
Yeah. There's no like even real interaction on a snake draft either.
No,
you know,
there's definitely like a learning curve to it though. Everybody who does it for their first year, just be prepared to be like, what the hell just happened? It might come at you quick, but I'm telling you, once you try it, I'll never do a snake draft again unless there was like a crazy thing to it. I don't even know what that could possibly be. I would never do a snake draft again. It's just,
I think
you don't have say. I don't have say in where I pick. I don't have say in who gets picked. I don't have say in anything. You know what I mean?
I think every single person who I've convinced to do a snake draft, I mean, it was pulling teeth to get the League of Elegance to do an auction. Everybody was so worried about it. And I told them after the first year, I've never had a person who I convinced to do an auction draft say they like snake drafts better afterwards. Everybody switches to auction once they experience it.
Here's the other thing. Everybody has their own way that they like to do things. Are you a heavy running back guy? Are you a 3 wide receiver guy? You want the top quarterback guy? When you do auction, you can have whatever you want. When you're in snake draft, a lot of times you're getting in situations where like, hey, I love running backs, but let's say there's a run on running backs and you're sitting there and you got to take the highest wide receiver available. So it just changes your game plan up. Like if that's not really truly what you wanted to do, you feel like you're obligated to do that when you're in a snake draft sometimes. When you're in an auction draft, if I want to have the best quarterback and 2-star running backs, and then I feel like I could just figure it out with my wide receivers, that's my game plan. And I'm going for it and I'm going to do it. I'm going to live by that this year, you know?
I do feel like more people feel satisfied with their draft after an auction draft. A larger percentage of your league will feel satisfied with their draft after an auction draft because they feel like they, generally speaking, got the people they wanted to get the most. And the people they didn't want, they didn't even bid on. You don't end up being like, fuck, I'm stuck now. I have to pick this position. You'll always essentially be running your own destiny.
I'd have snake drafts all the time where the draft ends and you're like, damn it, I hate my team. I've never had an auction draft where I looked at it because at the end of the day, like you may have not gotten everything you wanted, but I know there's like 5 guys on my team that like I wanted on my I won them on my team. So like, how could you hate what you got? You know, there might be some like weak holes that you need to address and stuff like that. But you know, I've done snake drafts where it's just like, dude, this sucks. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't have a quarterback because I wasn't going to draft one until the 5th round. But then by the 5th round, they're all gone. So I just had to get one super late, something like that.
Crazy run went on quarterbacks and you're at the end of the round or you know, there's so many things that could happen.
Yeah. And I don't even like the turn. People say like the turn is the best spot. Like, I don't know. I mean, you're picking essentially 40% of your team in 2 rounds, like right next to each other. You don't really get to see the landscape of how things are going in the league before adjusting your strategy in the draft. And when I say adjusting your strategy in the draft, it's not that complicated to be like, all right, the top wide receivers that are worth 50 and up just went. I need to get a wide receiver. That's kind of the most of it. It's not that complicated. I just hope most people out there will go for auction drafts. And I think that's the most important thing, league setups wise.
What are the best sites for auction drafts?
As much as everybody hates on ESPN, if you're just getting into an auction draft, I think ESPN is the way to go. It's like lays everything out. It's so easy to see. Like, here's a button I press to bid up.
What about MFL? How many people even like know about? I feel like that site is.
I think
like
MFL, my fantasy league, that's more for like I feel like that's advanced fantasy, which I think for the advanced fantasy, it's better. But all of our I've done an auction draft on NFL before.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Sleeper's good.
they have all the.
Sleeper's good. A lot of
Isn't
people do
the
Yahoo.
Aggies? Isn't the Aggies on NFL?
Yeah, Aggies are
Mhm.
on
It
MFL.
wasn't auction, but yeah, I have my other team on NFL that's auction, and they do it great.
But for people who are just starting out, because I think we're mostly talking to people who haven't done an auction before, because I think anybody who's done an auction knows it's the best way to go. So any people who haven't done an
Hopefully.
auction league,
I bet you there's a lot of people that just rocked out with ESPN, and that's what they do.
well, ESPN has auction.
Take a look at NFL is all I'm saying. If anybody who hasn't looked at that before, I feel like that site is not that like
I agree.
talked
It's not
about
well known.
enough.
No,
Yeah,
I
and it
agree.
should be. It's the most. It's you could do the most customization of your whole league out of
Including
any
the
site.
feel, like the feel of the league, like the background and all that
site,
stuff.
the background, all that. It's sick. It's cool.
If you're into like coding and all that kind of stuff, and I mean now, especially with AI stuff where you don't have to really know coding to just have it write the code for you, it's definitely more fun to customize your stuff that way. The other thing too is one of the biggest problems in leagues is when people suck early and then they give up for the whole season. Make prizes in the last 2 or 3 weeks of your regular season that are for just the top scoring team or some outlier weird thing, like whoever has the highest scoring running back in week, 12 or 13 or 11 right before your playoffs start, get something so that people who have a bad record in the early parts of the season still pay attention. That's something that will ruin a league very fast. If two people are like 0-4 and now there's two teams that just don't even set their lineup. Whereas if you make it so that like, all right, you don't have to win the whole league or even get in the playoffs to win some money, that makes everybody pay attention instantly for the whole season.
You could also do the second half of the season. You could have like that. It's its own thing. The winner of the second half of the season. That might not get you into the playoffs, but it might be enough to keep you active. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Give
and
it a-
also make your losers bracket mean something more than just a penalty, like just something insulting. Make it like, the winner of the losers bracket gets something for the next season, or maybe they get a keeper. And in League of Elegance, you get to steal a keeper from another team if you win the losers bracket. So that's serious. Like people want to win that. They're paying attention. You're not going to give up on your team if you can steal a keeper from another team and use them for the next season. You go into the next season starting 2 top 10 players at their position for cheap. Producer Reek stole Puka for like $5 and now just has him for a few seasons. Keeper rules too. If you have keepers, I know some leagues do like there's no penalty, there's no difference where you just keep a player one season to the next, or they'll have like you can only keep him for 2 or 3 seasons. The way that we do it in League of Elegance is whatever your auction value is for that player, it doubles each season. So if you get somebody for $5, next year they're 10, next year they're 20, next year they're 40. So I think 2 or 3 seasons you'll have somebody. Then it's almost never worth spending $80 on any player for a keeper. You just let them go back and try to get him again. But keeper leagues, make sure you're paying attention to those kind of settings to keep the league balanced rather than having somebody just hoard one player forever. That kind of makes people not pay attention anymore. Are there any other settings? Do you guys have any other rants? Any fantasy settings, draft rants? People are getting ready for their drafts. They're setting
Well,
for leagues.
I know that with Fantasy Sports Concierge, we would be in talks with how you are setting up your league. So if it is your first time doing an auction, just let us know that, and we could give you a little bit of advice how to start it off and everything like that. And
Visit fsconcierge.com. We will work with you. We'd get a sense of
yeah, we're gonna
how
build the
much of a beginner is your league.
auction world.
Yeah, we can ease you into the auction world. I would love that. If we became known as the leading podcast of auction drafters, that would be so great.
Actually, we're actually going to do a pod after our draft or after our auction draft this year with LOE. So we'll give you a little bit more of how it went down and give you kind of a bit more of insight on, it's an event for us. We all have it on our calendar. We're all excited for it. And it's it's almost like an all day event for us. So
It's one of the funnest days of the year. That's a great Great reminder, PJ. We are going to record our auction draft this year for League of Elegance, so people who do auctions, who haven't done auction drafts, can get a sense of how they go. They're really fun. The way that we do it to be live in person, everybody shows up to shout out Bodies by Ya to Yane's studio. If you need to get your body good, hit up Ya. Oh, Ambler, Pennsylvania. Good reminder, Reek. If you're an Ambler, PA, hit up Bodies by Ya. She didn't even pass to do that. It's just free advertising to our 35 viewers. But we have everybody show up and bring their own laptop, and then we do it through ESPN, the auction through ESPN. Everybody just gets a table. You sit at your table and we do our auction draft there. Everybody talks shit the whole time to each other. Who you're gonna throw up? Who has the most money? Reminding like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy's going for $1. Nudging people to make sure, like, hey, you got like $40. Like, throw something up on this person.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll give you guys a good idea of if you're scared to do an auction. We'll show you how easy it is and how fun it can be. Any last ones? Any more? Before we move on to tight ends,
I'm excited for everyone to kind of witness the auction draft. You know, 'cause
I am
think
too.
it's gonna turn some people's heads on what could be. You know,
I agree. I think people think it's so complicated, they're so intimidated, and it's not anywhere near that bad. And they'll see like, oh, like it's not something that you got to put on the thinking glasses and go out
Yeah,
and have your
it's
whole
fun.
spreadsheet, and you can just go in there with no book and just start clicking buttons, and you'll have a fine team.
Yeah.
All right, on to tight ends. Tight ends as a position, whether you're auction or sneak or whatever, there's 2 tight ends for me this year that, like, if you take them, they can be taken like in with the top receivers, with the top players. They're essentially receivers themselves. If you don't get Trey McBride or Brock Bowers, just let it rock and don't take a tight end until like the Isaiah Likely, TJ Hawkinson area. Like, do you guys? I just think tight ends. Every tight end that isn't one of the top 3 or 4 scores essentially the same amount of points, and you're just guessing. It's a crap.
I agree. Like, there's a tier down, but those 2 weren't like the immediate tier down. Right?
Do you have a bigger tier? You have a bigger tier 1, or you're saying there's more people in tier 1, or are you saying there's
no tier 1 is what it is.
Oh, I have a bigger tier 1. I think
your tier 1.
I think that this year it's kind of exciting that I think there's really 4 or 5 guys that could end up at the end of the year in that tier 1. I mean, you got Trey McBride, Bowers, obviously, but Colston Loveland, if he keeps up what he did at the end of last year, now with DJ Moore gone, he's in the conversation. Tyler Warren, they said goodbye to Michael Pittman. It's just Downs and Alec Pierce over there with what he did last year. He's in that conversation. And Harold Fannin Jr., what he did last year and hit the opportunity that he's going to have in Cleveland again. It's, to me, all 5 of those guys. And when you go back and you say that like it's a redundant, spot on a roster, it's better to flex those out. I agree with that in past years, and I still agree with that this year, but maybe we're starting to see this position grow enough where it's becoming more of a meaningful position in terms of fantasy.
I love Harold Fannin. I think he's the man, but there's one catch on him. All of his passes were short little drop-offs. They weren't, getting him downfield by whatever means. He was second in targets per route run last year, but he was 31st in yards per target. So it's like he's getting these little 5-yard passes. Now it's good for PPR. It's a good thing, but it's not the same type of setup that Trey McBride and Brock Bowers and everything's going to be. I don't know how much Cleveland's going to be able to open it up this year to like really put him into a tier 1 kind of category.
Well, I mean, 107 targets. He's the number 1 receiving option there, pretty much.
Yeah, he's 100. He's at 107 targets, but they were 6.8 yards per target. So it's like,
well, now you got Monken in there. Monken likes tight ends.
He does like tight ends.
And here's another thing. Historically, year 2 comparisons with guys that put up numbers like Fannin and Loveland and Warren is that 80% of them in their second year end up in the top 12 in fantasy points per game. 50% of them produce top 5 seasons, and 30% become outright top 3 fantasy tight ends.
Okay, but I just want to say, so those are all good. It's hard when you say like, yeah, they're top 3, top 5, whatever. That's all relative to tight end position. So let me read this out. So last year, there was only one tight end last year who averaged more than 15 fantasy points per game. That was Trey McBride, and he averaged 18.6. That's a number that, like, 18.6, you're an elite receiver. You can be drafted with the wide receiver ones of the world. Brock Bowers was at 14.7. George Kittle was at 14.7. Tucker Kraft, before he got hurt, 14.7. After that is another drop off to 12, and then everybody else is below that, like 11. So, like, you can have a top 5 tight end, and he's averaging 12 points a game. Like, that's not that many. I just think that you don't spring for an early pick on a Tyler Warren. Not because Tyler Warren's not good, not because he might not be one of the better tight ends in the NFL, but because tight ends don't just score like that often. They have 1 or 2 good games, of course, a season, especially the elite guys. But on a consistent basis, tight ends are not going to score that many points for you. So I'm saying, like, I would rather have a Josh Downs who could go off with all the new targets that are available there in Indianapolis, who could go off and be a 15-point per game scorer, and like that's not a breakout 15 points. That's just like him doing pretty good. Whereas if you got the equivalent, a guy doing pretty good, like a Tyler Warren doing pretty good is like 12. Like, I'm just like, I just think that tight end should be the lowest of your priorities relative to the other positions that you're going to draft. Like, if you're not going to get a Brock Bowers or a Trey McBride or maybe a Tucker Kraft, maybe a Colston Loveland, like, it's more projection. A lot of his production came when Rome Odunze was hurt, so that's kind of tough. But then again, DJ Moore's gone, so there's some targets there for him to pick up.
My whole point is that why did Trey McBride have such a great year? Well, Marvin Harrison goes down, and that opens up everything for him. And Michael Wilson emerged as well. Do we find Trey McBride doing what he did last year happening again now that Marvin Harrison is there for a whole year, let's say? But even at that, I'm saying that the 3 guys that I mentioned were all rookies last year. And they are in this position now where they could step into a Trey McBride role because they are really the number 1 option outside of Colston Loveland. But these guys are in a position where they can be the main target, where they're going to be the main red zone targets as well for, quarterbacks that need help with their tight ends.
They were the main targets last year and they're on the same bad offenses. They were both getting the top target share on their offense last year, both Fannin and Warren. And
as
like,
rookies,
again, like,
though.
no, I agree.
Yeah. So
No, I agree. Like, they're gonna but to get 167 receptions in that kind of area that Trey McBride got, I mean, they could have. What would you say? 107 targets last year for Fannin,
Mm-hmm.
and he led the team in target, or Warren led his team in targets. Fannin was.
Yeah, Warren had 106. Fannin had 104.
And he
What do you
also
expect? What kind of increase?
Too.
Yeah, but
There are 9 tight ends who had over 100 targets. After that, the drop off is huge. It goes from Jake Ferguson had 100, which Jake Ferguson only had 100 because CeeDee Lamb missed so much time. Jake Ferguson's not getting 100 targets again. But after that drop, it goes to 84. That's what I'm saying is, like, most tight ends,
what kind of increase out of those guys?
I agree with you, Nick. Like, they're not going to Fannin's not going to have 160 targets. That's not going to happen. Like, no matter what. Like, he's not. And I think a big part of why Trey McBride got that, to your point, PJ, is like the Cardinals were very specially pathetic. I mean, at one point, they set the record for most. Jacoby Brissett set the record for most passing attempts in a game. That's not going to happen this year. Like, even though the Cardinals suck again.
Brock Bowers too is capable of doing the same exact thing. We got to agree on him as well.
Yeah, Brock Bowers only had 83 targets last year, so I think
he got hurt. But he got hurt.
They're in the same position that Fannin is in, as well as Warren. So to me, where you're saying that like this, they're not going to get 160 targets. I think it's possible for both of them to really jump up in what they're going to get.
120.
You think
maybe?
what 120, 130?
Well, yeah, I think that's a lot more realistic than 167. I think that's got to be one of the highest targets that a tight end's ever gotten in a year.
Yeah, 165 is incredible. I mean, that's not
Mhm.
something that's going to happen often. But
I don't think it's
Oh.
crazy to think that when we look at the end of the year, that those 5 guys were all legitimate top receiving options on your fantasy team.
so I'm looking at the top targets.
But you wouldn't draft all 5 of them
No.
And you wouldn't
amongst the wide receiver ones. But you would when you talk about Brock Bowers and Trey McBride.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's my point.
I'll
my point
agree
is,
with that. But I'm
don't
saying
draft
that
these guys
by the
early.
end of the year, we could look back on this and say that like going into next year, we could have 5 guys that are tier 1. And does this create more of an influence on having an individual tight end roster spot?
I think if you could depend on, so here I'm looking back.
There are a lot of good tight ends in the league right now. I mean,
they're good, but
Yeah.
the last year in 2024, not 2025, 2 years ago, 2024, there were 4 tight ends had over 100 targets. In 2023, let's see.
targets is the big one, man. Because
that's what I'm saying.
Even like Dallas Goedert, like I think Dallas Goedert could have a great year this year. He had all the touchdowns last year. They lose AJ Brown. There's got to be a step up, but in all reality, how many targets is he going to get? Like
maybe 90, maybe. I think 6 is the upper limit of tight ends with over 100 targets. Looking back through, in 2022 there was 4, in 2023 there was 5. So I'm just saying that as much as Fannin and Warren and those guys, I agree they're going to be good relative to tight ends. If you're choosing between drafting a 3rd wide receiver and a 1st tight end, pick the 3rd wide receiver. That's my main point. Is I would rather get a receiver who has the potential to jump from his station than a tight end who has a potential to jump from his station, because the jump for the receiver equals a lot more fantasy points. It usually equals a lot more targets.
It's the same thought process basically as a quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a couple top quarterbacks, and then if you don't fall away with them, there's a handful that you can choose from down the line.
Yeah.
And I think tight ends are the same way this year. There's a lot of tight ends that can be solid. You know what I mean?
Right. Like, what's the difference between this year taking a Mark Andrews versus taking a Harold Fannin? You know, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Andrews scored more points than Harold Fannin. Isaiah Likely's gone. Charlie Kohler's gone. They're going to do more under center play action work, which is
I do like Fannin, but it's
I like Fannin too, but Fannin's on the
possible.
Browns. He's on the Browns, which the Browns are trash. The quarterbacks are all trash. Like, the Browns don't have a history of good tight ends because their teams are bad and because they don't throw the ball well, and that's the case with their team this year. I just think that I would rather have a Jamison Williams and Mark Andrews than Harold Fannin and like Trey Johnson, or who's the 3rd wide receiver on the Raiders, or the 2nd. You know what I mean? Like, it's better to have the more potential that you draft, your sleepers and stuff like that, or your players who you're going to think you need more out of as a wide receiver than as a tight end.
Yeah, but I went in and I just looked up at some people who had less than 100 targets last year. So let me ask you, would you take Khalil Shakir over, let's say, over Tyler Warren?
Not over Tyler Warren.
Or let's say Fannin.
That's close to me. That's actually close to me.
It is. Yeah,
Maybe.
it is close because this is the thing. It's I'd rather have 10 points out of my tight end and more flexibility at my flex spot, because that flex spot can be tough. You know what I mean? It's not like you're going to rock out with your 1-2 wide receiver and a flex, and those are your 3 that you're running with all year long. It's got to be interchangeable. You know what I mean? So if you put a lot of emphasis on that tight end and getting him early, you're going to be one behind on having the depth to play around in that flexibility position. Like, so that's what it ultimately comes down to with me.
Yeah,
I feel like
I think if you plan for your tight end spot to be, and I think for most people this is the case anyway, you're gonna very rarely do you use one tight end the whole season. Whereas I think if you put in an auction league, if you're like, I'm spending big on 3 receivers, that'll be your 3. Like you'll put 2 receivers and the other won't be in your flex spot, and you can rock with that. I would rather have that be the situation than I have a, let me see, like even Travis Kelce.
If you're in a
pretty good deal
10-team
last
league,
year.
that's more possible. When you
Yeah,
get into
no,
them 12-team leagues, you got to play around your flex. There's no way getting around. It's going to be a running back.
Yeah.
It might be a wide receiver, but
Well-
you have to have movement. Very rarely do you luck out and you got a person that just sits in that flex spot all year long because
Yeah, that
your
almost
running
never
backs
happens in
and wide
12 team leagues.
receivers are just set. You know what I mean?
So dominant. Yeah, it's never happened.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. You got to have the ability to play there.
And if it does happen, you're lucky because that's a good thing. That means your flex is killing it. And I think it's more likely that you can get a good flex if you just deprioritize tight end. That is, I would say, either take Trey McBride, because in rounds, if you're talking about a snake draft, to get Trey McBride or to get Brock Bowers, you have to draft them in the first 3 rounds, right? Like they're not making it past round 3. And to get them in an auction league, you're spending wide receiver 1 money.
Well, you got him
$50.
for what, $18 last year?
Hold on,
Something?
but
I
let me
remember you
ask you
doing
this.
that and me wanting to throw the fucking chair.
Yeah,
at
that was crazy. But then he got injured, so it didn't matter. It didn't really help you that
thank
much.
God.
Let's just use your example, Khalil Shakir, right?
Yeah.
Is there a world where he outplays DJ Moore this year in fantasy and he is the true wide receiver 1 on that team?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely,
Either DJ Moore gets
So
hurt,
that risk is very
huge.
big to me when you're asking me him or Warren, if that's where I'm staring at the time, you know what I mean? Chances are somebody took Warren, and I don't even have to worry about this conversation because somebody else is going to value the tight end more than I do. But yeah, that ability to say, all right, well, this guy's my flex spot, but there is that chance that this guy takes off and becomes wide receiver 1 on this team, and now he's more than that. Now he's my wide receiver 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point. I think that the potential of wide receivers essentially is just higher than the potential of almost every tight end.
It's not just wide receiver either. It's also a running back.
And your running backs, yes.
Right.
A running back is Charbonnet could be sitting there. You could take Charbonnet or TJ Warren. I'm taking Charbonnet, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Or
I don't know. I'm not taking Sharp. I put Tyler Warren in.
You just had high praise on Charbonnet in the last one. You said that you could see him.
Of course I did.
But he has injury problems. Let's do a different one because he has injury problems.
But
so
I'm talking about the difference of having a team's number 1 option receiving wise, because that's what he's setting himself up for.
Then
Charbonnet hoping that he gets a goal line carry.
Okay, let's say that's a tough one because Charbonnet's injured. And
tough.
Let's say DeAndre Swift or Tyler Warren.
Tyler Warren.
Are you serious, dude?
Well, we just had our DeAndre Swift talk.
Dude, I'm so down on the Bears. So down on the Bears running.
They're
the tough one to pick. That's a tough one to draft. The Bears.
Would you rather have TreVeyon Henderson or Fannin? I'd rather have TreVeyon Henderson, like hands down.
Now, I mean, right now,
we just talked about TreVeyon Henderson as like, yeah, you got to kind of slow your roll on him because but if
because of that,
I
mean, Fannin is the number 1
That's crazy to me,
there,
dude.
Though.
That's crazy to me because
if we're talking about a flex spot where I could pick one of those 3 positions, I am going with the highest volume there.
I think the highest volume between TreVeyon Henderson and Harold Fannin is clearly TreVeyon Henderson, because TreVeyon Henderson's going to get, even with Stevenson there, 12 touches a game. No questions about that. Do we agree?
Oh, what happens when Stevenson fumbles twice?
I agree. No,
I'm
that's
all
a bonus.
on board with that. That's why I'm saying at this moment where it is somewhat up in the air. What are you ranking TreVeyon Henderson?
I'm ranking.
25th,
I'm certainly
25th running back, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, but I'm certainly ranking TreVeyon Henderson over.
But if you take Fannin and not Henderson there, right? You get on the way back, you could get an Isaiah Likely or something like that.
Right.
What running back on the way back are you getting?
Right. You're getting
It happens that quick. It happens like this with running backs. And
here's another good one.
Wide receivers are different, right? You can find, but with running backs specifically, you know, if that's where the run starts happening and TreVeyon Henderson is like the pick and stuff like that.
I take Ramondre Stevenson then.
Would you rather have Tony Pollard or Loveland?
I fucking hate Tony Pollard.
I
I take
hate
Loveland all day.
But Tony Pollard is going to get 15 touches a game every time, and Colston Loveland is not averaging 15 targets a game. That's what I'm saying.
I think it'll go up. What was he getting at the last 7 games?
The point is,
like
he's
12?
not getting. Do you really think Colston Loveland's gonna? You really think Loveland's gonna?
Even if he was
15?
getting 12.
I'm talking about the end of the season last year, the last 7 games. He was getting 12 targets a game, and now you don't have DJ Moore there.
Yeah, but if he was getting 12 targets over a 7, that tight end position doesn't mean that it's going to translate to the next year where a 17-game season, he's going to get 12 targets a game. He might have spurts.
I think it can.
Odunze wasn't there when he was getting 12 targets a game, and he's back. So he's not getting 12 targets a game. Let's be real. Come on. That's
the
you sure about
upside,
that?
I guess.
Okay,
I
so
guess that's the upside of the
McBride,
tight ends, right? I guess if there's an injury
Listen,
that does happen to one of your wide receivers, the tight ends.
Let me squash this first. Let me squash this first because I am sure about that because Trey McBride averaged 9.7 targets per game. So no, Colston Loveland's never getting 12 targets a game, PJ. That's never going to happen. Trey McBride just like set the record for catches by a tight end and he didn't get anywhere near that much. So no, he's not. Like,
yeah.
I think I'd rather have 12 Tony Pollard touches or opportunities, whether targets, and I think it's going to be 15. I think Tony Pollard's getting 15. It's not crazy to that's not something that's insane. Whereas it is insane to think of Colston Loveland.
I hope you draft Tony Pollard in every fucking
I don't even like Tony Pollard that much.
PJ, what's the one stat that you said that you like that like the usage one?
The weighted opportunity.
Weighted opportunities?
Yeah. So where do tight ends fall in the weighted opportunities compared to?
I guess it would be 1.5 per target.
Yeah, I mean,
and then 0.7 for
rushes.
Well, I guess receiving.
So how many wide receivers typically rank higher than them? Because if it's a target-based thing, or running backs too, right? If it's a target-based thing, you would think that tight ends don't get the most targets. You would think that they're lower on your lists every week. No?
Well, over a running back, though? Over Tony Pollard.
I just pulled up targets per game for last season and among running backs and tight ends. And Trey McBride's number 1 at 9.7. Number 2 is Christian McCaffrey at 7.2. Brock Bowers is at 6.9. Kyle Pitts is at 6.8. There's another couple guys in the 6 range, and then the next running back is Bijan at 5.8. Jahmyr Gibbs 5.5. So tight ends and running backs, tight ends generally get about 2 more targets per game than running backs, the best ones.
Yeah, but how many? But
that doesn't overtake
carries.
If you include carries in there, running backs win by a lot. Because even just touches, all the running backs that I mentioned get more than 10.
Yeah, so like if you were looking at just that list, and all it's speaking on is targets per game, right? Like a target, like basically what you're doing in the passing game, but it doesn't include anything with the running game. Yeah, so when you look at that, you have to incorporate running. So then that would boost every running back above all those tight ends. And how many wide receivers sit above those tight ends to begin with?
And almost all the top ones, absolutely.
So it seems like it's a no-brainer when it comes to that stat specifically. It seems like that just devalues
opportunities
out of tight ends.
Yeah, if you're going for opportunities, you always want to take the running back at the same tier. I would rather have a tier 4 running back than a tier 2 tight end, is what I'm saying. Because the opportunities for that tier 4 running back are going to be better.
And the ceilings are always better.
Yeah, for a tight end to get a significant uptick in their outlook for the season from going into the season through halfway of the season, not just a wide receiver would have to get hurt. Something else would have to happen. Because just because a wide receiver gets hurt, the tight end doesn't automatically assume those targets because the way that receiver gets targeted is different. A wide receiver gets targeted deeper down the field up to the seam on go routes where that tight ends don't run as much of. So there would be a receiver that would take up those targets rather than a tight end. Where for a running back, if a running back gets hurt, that running back's getting more touches right away. But even as I've clowned on tight ends a little bit, my biggest sleeper at tight end is Cade Otton. So Cade Otton, last year was pretty good. He was kind of middle of the pack as far as tight ends go. But new offensive coordinator for Tampa Bay is Zach Robinson. Under Zach Robinson, the Atlanta Falcons ran multiple tight end sets, so 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends, at the second highest rate in the NFL. This is last year. Tight ends accounted for 34% target share in his scheme last year, which is the highest percentage out of the NFL. Last year, under Zach Robinson, 88 receptions, 928 yards, 5 touchdowns, 118 targets, 21% target share, which we said when you're in the 20s is when you start being good. There are no tight ends on the roster that would even be close to challenging Cade Otton for target share. And they lost Mike Evans, which a lot of his targets are going to the receivers, but there's going to be some target scraps left in the ground for Cade Otton there. So I think if you're looking for one of those deep sleepers, look into Cade Otton. Instead of spending that top pick on Trey McBride, on Brock Bowers, take one of the top running backs, take one of the top wide receivers, and pick up Cade Otton late in the draft. Cade Otton might even go undrafted in a lot of drafts, I think. So that's my deep sleeper. You guys have any?
Yeah, look
your
what Kyle
sleeper
Pitts
tight end?
just did with Zach Robinson, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Zach Robinson is his OC now. I mean, and he's the unquestioned number 1 tight end in Tampa Bay.
Are
And
we
I
going to
already
give up
said
on the Kyle Pitts thing? Is this the year people start wisening up a little bit
and drafting him, you're saying?
and not drafting him?
He killed it last year. What do you mean?
No, come on, man.
He was, I think,
he-
the 3rd highest scoring tight end last
he
year.
did kill it last year.
4.2 TD rate. He had 118 targets. He only converts 5 of them into touchdowns. People have him ranked in the
118
top 5.
targets
Is a lot.
is
I
more than
hear
the
you.
guys you
I
love.
hear you, but he doesn't convert them. I would much prefer the guys that convert them. And he doesn't get used in the red zone either. He only had 11 red zone targets, and only 4 of them were in the end zone.
Think about who his quarterbacks were, though, also. You got to give him a break there. I mean, he had some pretty bad quarterback play. He almost had
He
it
still
as bad
has
as
the bad quarterback play.
he does.
It's funny
I
because
agree with that.
I was watching a clip of both of those quarterbacks and reading some
The
comments and
lefties.
everything. Yeah, reading comments, and they say how the arms are 2 different arms. You got Michael Penix, who fires the ball, and he always leads his receivers because he's just like winging it. And the Dolphins fans were talking about how watching Tua always puts the ball where the receiver is at the moment. He doesn't
Yeah.
give them any extra. So just thinking about what the Falcons wide receivers are going through when it goes with chemistry, you got 2 totally different quarterbacks that are fighting for a job. One's leading you on everything, and one's fucking giving it to you here. It's just like, what the fuck am I getting? You know what I mean?
I don't know what the Falcons have been doing as a franchise for the past 10 years. It kind of doesn't make any sense.
It's just,
No,
I mean,
and the
it's just
Kyle
crazy
Pitts
to
thing,
me with him.
I'm with you. Like, I hope people don't jump all over him this year. They should step away from him. But I
People
was
are
just
going
kinda just
to, yeah.
well, I was just firing back kind of because I knew that he had
I know,
more
yeah.
targets than the guys that you are so high on.
Right. I hear what you're
You know,
saying. But yeah, even at that though, it doesn't translate into touchdowns. So it doesn't really translate into like any elite fantasy production. I mean, this guy's a 90% route participation guy, and they don't throw the ball to him in the end zone. I mean, it's
my question is is Daulton Kincaid gonna finally step up
Play.
and have a year? You know what I mean?
right.
Like
Everyone's
that
waiting
Bills
on that one.
offense. Yeah, everybody's waiting for a wide receiver or tight end, a pass catcher on the Bills offense to produce in fantasy. They haven't had that since what? Stephon Diggs?
Diggs.
Well, he
Yeah.
was
Yeah, and it's
Kincaid
been
was on the
years.
up and up though. He missed 7 games last year.
Yeah, and
He
well,
Was,
the thing,
but again, they just haven't had it. People every year I know are in fantasy or getting ready to draft, or they're in the middle of their draft and they're going, I know this is the year, this is the year where such and such is going to pay, or Khalil Shakir is going to be the one this year, and he's going to take off. He's
Yeah.
going to do it. Kincaid's going to be the one. You're high on DJ Moore this year. I like DJ Moore as a wide receiver, but I'm at the point where I think the Bills are the type of team that just gets it done on game day through whatever and they're not
For
really a
Josh Allen.
fantasy
I mean,
for Josh Allen,
Josh Allen and James Cook. Yeah.
and James Cook is going to be the man. I just don't think that any wide receiver is going to be like that wide receiver one in fantasy. You know,
Daulton Kincaid is tops of all the advanced metrics, so he's always there. But I just don't believe in him because he has like a PCL injury that like he doesn't get surgery on. He just plays
Yeah.
through. Like
and Knox is still in the building.
Knox
yeah,
still there, yeah.
I don't believe in. I don't think that Kincaid's worth drafting. I think he's a red herring. I also other guys that I think I would avoid. I talked about Jake Ferguson earlier. Jake Ferguson is not going to get the amount of 100 targets like he got last year because CeeDee Lamb will be there and Pickens is going to need to
So
get
is Pickens,
his
yeah.
work. Like, so I don't like
Yeah,
people
throw the
who are
ball to
looking at
him this year.
stats. People are looking at stats. Jake Ferguson had a good run last year because of the injury to CeeDee Lamb, but so watch out for that. Don't draft him high. George Kittle's still injured. He got injured in January of this year. He tore his Achilles. So it takes longer than that to come back from an Achilles injury, especially if you're a 33-year-old tight
Yeah.
end. Like, he's not Kevin Durant. He doesn't weigh 180 pounds at 6'10" or 7 feet or whatever. So I would stay away from George Kittle. I would stay away from Jawan Johnson. Last year had a great year, but again, a lot of injuries last year
Back
to
up
that
there,
New
yeah.
Orleans team. And I don't think that he's going to get the same amount of targets that he got. I mean, they have Etienne as a big pass catcher as a running back. And then I like Tucker Kraft, of course. He's great. He's a really good NFL tight end. He's probably, top 5 in terms of actually on the field tight ends in the NFL. But he is coming back off of an ACL injury, and it usually takes players, especially tight ends, ask TJ Hawkinson, at least a season to come back from an ACL injury. He's got a lot of weight to put on the ACL. He's not just like a receiver or running back, and even those guys take a while to come back. So I would watch drafting Tucker Kraft earlier, putting too much money on Tucker Kraft. But on the opposite side of that, TJ Hawkinson has had a disappointing past 2 years, was a first-round pick, is an elite. He has been an elite tight end before in his career. I think he might be a good sleeper also too, if you're going to avoid putting resources in tight end early like you should. TJ Hawkinson might be a guy that you can get late in the draft or spend $1 on an auction.
You know who's a great late round cheap tight end option? Gunnar Helm of Tennessee. Okongwu, whatever his name, he's out of there now. Chig, yeah. And then yeah, I mean, he's just he had like an 80% catch rate last year. He only had 55 targets, but I mean, he is the guy. I mean, he's the only one there. Cam Ward's gonna need a tight end to throw to. It's, definitely not a guy that you want to ride home about, but he's a nice little sleeper.
And
I
that's what I
think
think you should do.
AJ Barner's a solid one too.
Mhm.
He's young. He's a good. They're gonna still try to run the ball over there. You saw that with how they drafted Price, and he's a real good run blocker. So it's gonna keep him on the field a lot, and he's a good red zone target for them. So that's another guy that's he's gonna put up solid numbers. You know what I mean?
I think a lot
Draft
of
him late.
teams are gonna load up on JSN this year. Obviously, I mean, they're even more so than they did last year. Now they've seen what he is, so they got to find somewhere else to give the ball to once he's triple teamed this year. I'm sure plenty.
Yeah. How about Dallas Goedert? What do you guys think of Dallas Goedert this year? You got Stowers coming in.
I
I
just
think
think
he's had a
that
great year. I think he had an awesome year. I think the touchdown, the ability to score a touchdown is always going to be there. He's going to be a
I don't.
touchdown threat on that team. But I mean, he's always found ways to score.
Yeah, that's the thing with him. He's always been like pretty reliable in that sense.
Yeah.
But last
Like
year
he's
he set
he's
the
the
record.
great like round 12 through 15 tight end that you could get who's gonna give you
And
better
listen,
production at that draft spot.
they're saying that, he's going to have to be throwing the ball over the middle more. And that's where I think he's going to find Dallas Goedert more.
You don't think that Mekhi Lemon's going to take a lot of those opportunities?
I think Wicks is going to get opportunities. I think McLemon's going to get. I think there's a lot of people that get, but I think who outside of Devontae Smith, you'd have to say that Dallas Goedert's the most trusted person to Jalen Hurts right now on this team.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So again, he's always going to be a threat for touchdowns. And
He had 11
they-
last year.
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to have 11 again.
That's a lot.
But it's a lot.
yeah.
But like he goes out and gets 7 or 8. That's a lot for a tight end. That's a good amount for a tight end. And they just lost. I mean, they just lost AJ Brown. There's a lot of targets to be had. I don't think Mekhi, Lemon, and Wicks are going to eat up all of them.
What do you guys think about Travis Kelce? Real quick, he had the 3rd most fantasy points last year among tight ends, 193.
I know that's wild, right?
But where does the fall off happen? We kind of been seeing.
I think it already happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's been happening. Is this the year he completely falls off?
Would you draft him? Let's say here, his average price that he's going for right now on ESPN is $2 in a $200 auction league, and on Yahoo he's going on average for $8. His average draft round on ESPN is round 11, and for Yahoo it's round 10. Would you guys spend more or draft him?
I think for
earlier?
I mean, for a buck, yeah, but I think Noah Gray is going to be like the guy at the end of the year for them.
I think I would rather take a chance on Isaiah Likely than Travis Kelce, and that sounds crazy when you think about their history of their careers. But I think based on the opportunity that's in front of, especially if it takes Malik Neighbors a little bit to get started up here, Isaiah Likely might be their number 1 target
in 2026. I don't think that sounds crazy at all.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah. I think I would.
Likely's in an opportunity now to shine, man. He's got his coach with him. I mean, you know what I mean? He should come right into that offense and be a big time. Again, Neighbors isn't even going to be there at training camp to even help him.
I would take a chance on TJ Hawkinson over Travis Kelce. Throwing on a bounce back season for him now that he's a couple of years. I would a couple
agree.
Of years past his ACL.
Yeah,
all right. Any last tight end? That was a longer tight end conversation than I thought we'd have. I think tight end is the last position we haven't really talked about individually. So
defense, I think we got to do next.
Yeah, we're next few episodes we'll get a defense in there.
And mock draft coming up, baby.
Yeah, mock draft coming up. We're gonna talk about IDPs. We're gonna talk about sleeper wide receivers, like deep sleeper wide receivers. I think we talked about the top 5 wide receivers, but we got to get some sleepers in there. Lots of great stuff coming up. And throw out one more thing is because PJ, that was a great reminder. When we live record our live draft, everybody's gonna get to see how an auction goes. Last thoughts? Anything sports related tight end fantasy?
Sports related, I just want to say shout out to Philadelphia. Did a great job at the All-Star game. Did a great job with FIFA World Cup. A lot to be proud of.
Best fan base in the world.
Yep.
And say that again, Nick. Say it again.
LeBron's coming. He's on his way.
Yeah, Nick is delusional. That's the Philly fan in him coming out. He's just setting himself up to be pissed at LeBron when he goes back to Cleveland.
Perfect.
Thank you, Philly fans, for representing us well. I'm so proud to be a Philly fan. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Even if you're not a Philly fan, we love you too. Me and Reek went to the HBCU Classic, which was the start of the MLB All-Star, the HBCU All-Stars. And there was a woman there, an older woman who was from New York, and she was so great. She was celebrating hard. She was making noise. She was getting up and like doing pom-poms and everything. I loved her. So we love you too, New York, even though you just won a championship and we're jealous. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Check us out on socials, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere you can hear podcasts. Go to fsconcierge.com to check out our services for league management. We can help you guys if you haven't done an auction before. Minutes from today's meeting will not be distributed. League office is adjourned until next time.
Thanks for stopping by. Visit fsconcierge.com.